Okay, hi everybody. My name's Matty Jackson, joined by Stephen Cole again.
Hello, mate.
Steve,
How
and
are you?
joined by Henry Eccles as well.
Hello. Hello. I'm excited to be here.
And we are back with the Academy North podcast, the first podcast we've done since COVID lockdown, I think. So first time in 4 years. So myself and Steve are back, and we've introduced Henry because we will be uploading to YouTube, and he's the only one who knows how to do that. For anyone listening who doesn't know about Academy North, we are predominantly a coaching company based in the Northwest. We run coaching for individuals, for clubs, schools, tours, festivals, tournaments, and apparently podcasts as well now. So our first guest of this new series, a man nice and local to us and an England international. Thanks for joining us, Tom Hartley. How are you, Tom?
Yeah, I'm very good. And you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, mate. Thank you very much for coming along.
No, it's a pleasure. It's great to be here.
So what's been the winter like for you so far? What have you been up to last few months since the season ended?
Not a lot, to be honest with you. I've had a lot to work on. The season unfortunately didn't pan out as well as I wanted to. But it's been a great time to really work on my fitness, and there's been a few technical aspects of my game which been able to break down really. So I've actually really enjoyed it and been at home as well, which is always nice.
Nice. Do you get much time off, or are you straight back into the training as soon as the season finishes?
No, they're pretty good lengths. They give us about 6 weeks off. So we went in about the start of November. And then we're pretty much in, well, at the minute, about 4 days a week. So yeah, it's pretty chill, to be honest, this time of year.
Nice. I saw on social media on yours and Lanks, you've just been in Dubai, is that right? Playing a Sixers tournament?
Yeah, Lanks through Emirates. Lanks need to take out 2 players for the Dubai Sevens. So there's a lot going on. So you have the rugby sevens. There's also a cricket comp going on, and the lad running the cricket side just asked me if I could come and play a few games. So went down, played a few, which was good, but it was just a great weekend.
Tough life, that, mate. All right. So you do a little bit of coaching at Merchants as well. How'd that go?
Yeah, it was class. Gary Yates is working down there now, and I think Merchants are looking to offer kids, some extra cricket. They've sort of heard about the Harry Brooks story at Sedbergh. How he, was training before school, during school, and I think they're just trying to offer that there. So they've just asked me to come down, and it was class. Two lads down there were really good. Both play for Lancs as well, the age group. So it was nice to help out.
Dude, we'll ask you about what it was like going and playing cricket in India, touring with England, sort of the big story. But before we do that, we record this a few days after the derby was postponed. So I believe Everton's most recent result was a 4-0 victory against Wolves. So it feels like there's no better time really to ask what it's like to be an Everton fan at the moment. How's that treating you?
Yeah, it's been tough. Last few years have been pretty crap, to be honest. But this time of the year is tough because we've been rubbish basically. But we'll come good. Under Dyche, and I think they play a nice style of football. So hopefully they sort of rally towards the end of the season and over this busy Christmas period.
Well, it's nice to hear that you're still optimistic. How are you feeling going into the derby? Because obviously we drawn away at Newcastle and we were pretty poor for large.
You're drawn with 3 reds here, we should say.
Yeah, well, sorry, Ben. Were you optimistic going into the derby? I saw a couple of Everton fans were saying that you'd been offered false hope. I must say, following the midweek stuff, I was nervous. Having to go to Goodison.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully I went to last year's one at Goodison, and it was unreal, to be honest with you. And so I think a lot of people are trying to hold on to the fact that maybe you'll be able to replicate it. But I think the way Arnie's come in and they got you playing pretty nice football, to be honest with you. So I think it would have been a challenge, but I think on derby days you always back yourselves, and anything can happen, really.
Yeah.
Would you keep Dyche?
I mean, I think he's going to get us so far. He's going to keep. Oh well, hopefully he'll keep us in the Prem. I mean, he's done it last 2 years. but it's been pretty close, to be honest with you. But is he the manager that's going to take us into the top half of the table? I don't know. But you just got to give him time, really, and see how it pans out.
Fighting attractive football. And I've got here that.
Yeah, I noticed that, I noticed on your social media you did something at Everton with Tarkowski. Was that just after the England tour, was it?
Yeah, so Tarkowski's a bit of a cricket fan. So funnily enough, after that seventh, he messaged over just saying, well done, like, been watching you during our training sessions, they were in the gym and stuff. So that was class, and just spoke with him a little bit, and it was class. And then the media manager at England knows the media guy at Everton, so we just sort of organised for me and my dad to go down and just have a little look around, and met Tarky and a few of the other players and watched them train. It was a class day.
That's that. What a great opportunity. Let's get down there. Just before we move on to some of the England stuff, mate, what are the plans for the rest of the winter? Have you got anything lined up in terms of anything exciting?
No, nothing, to be honest. I think it's pretty tough at the minute or especially spinners to really pick up franchise comps. There's so many local lads in all these tournaments. It's pretty tough. So still got my fingers crossed, but I think there could be some opportunities perhaps in Sri Lanka, and maybe hopefully a Lions tour as well might come up in the new year, but we'll just have to wait and see at the minute.
What does the pre-season stuff look like with Lancs, mate?
So this time of the year until Christmas, there's a real fitness focus. So we're gymming 3 times a week, 2 runs a week, and then we'll only cricket actually twice, maybe 3 times a week. But that's all optional depending on the players. So I've been doing everything because I've had a lot to work on, and then sort of as we pass New Year and get closer towards the season, they sort of taper off our fitness a bit more and allow us to just go and train as much as possible, which is good.
I saw on Lancs' Instagram they were doing a little fitness thing, like out and about. They weren't in the gym or at a track or anything. They appeared to be like running up a hill. They'd gone on location, like running up sand dunes, bits like that. Is there a big focus on that with Lancs? Do they like taking you outside of your traditional gym sort of professional sports setup?
Yeah, I think so. I think they try and at least a couple of times in the winter get us out and about. So we were up Rivington last Friday. But I think they just try and spice it up a bit. It can be a bit, can get a bit boring, doing the same routine week after week. And we have like the 6-week block now, which we're in our penultimate week now. So, they just try and keep it fresh, because otherwise you find yourself taking ages in the gym, and, it's just nice to switch things up a bit, I think.
I think just last thing on this, Tom, from like you said a couple of times now that you kind of felt you've had stuff to work on in this off season. What does that kind of look like in terms of technical work? Obviously, you've talked a lot about fitness stuff, but obviously our primary thing at Academy North is coaching, and it will be really interesting to kind of find out what that looks like for yourself.
Yeah, so I'll start with bowling. So basically, it's tough when you bowl so many overs and you get tired. You start to drift a little bit. So what I really noticed towards the end of the season was how wide I was bowling on the crease. And don't get me wrong, I can come good if the ball's turning quite a lot. But when it's just sliding on, you create, it's tough to beat the bat, really. So I've really tried to focus on my alignment, sort of staying tight to the stumps, and not kicking out as much. And I think for me, I rotate quite early in my action. So my takeoff foot is sort of pointing towards point, really. So I'm just trying to get everything in a line, basically, just so I'm not losing momentum and I'm not kicking out wide of the crease. And then batting wise, I moved quite a lot in my setup on release. So just at release of the ball, Seymour spin, I sort of like have a dip, so my knees bend a bit, and then also my hands drop because I have quite high hands, almost like baseball. So my hands actually drop sort of towards my hip, and it's only if I'm playing an aggressive shot do I actually bring my hands back up again. So in defense, my hands are drop, and then I just jab at the ball, basically, where I really want to ideally come back up again and be quite steep on it so I can hit it down. and not sort of pushing at it then. So like for me, it's just been keeping my hands sort of still and release, and then every time the ball's coming down, can I just pick my hands back up again? So that whether I'm playing an attacking or a defensive shot, I'm still at the same position. And then finally, short ball work has been quite a big focus because down the order you tend to get a bit of it, and for myself, I'm trying to get up the order. So it's just nice to be comfortable playing it, and hopefully I'll get less of it.
Obviously, mate, you've got all these coaches and stuff in the Lang setup in England and stuff. Is there someone that you like go back to from like when you first started that's seen you from the very start that you always sort of to like value their opinion on, that always like seeing you from the start to the finish?
Yeah, so funny enough, when I first joined Lancs, they saw there was no real spin help, so they employed this guy, Carl Crow. Probably not heard of him, but he did a lot of work with Narayan when he was chucking it, and been to the IPL quite a few years. And now he was assistant at Lancs up until last year, and now does a lot of the franchise comps. He's the head coach for a few of the T10s and T20s, but he's a real spin nutter, to be honest with you. Me and him got on really well, and so you don't realize how lucky you were to spend that much time with him. But he sort of just gets where I'm coming from and gets what I'm trying to do, and I just listen to everything. And then he's also been really good for my batting because he's been around the IPLs for so long. You've seen, Dre Russ is there. He's at KKR, so Salty's there. They've all had all these great batters, and so he sees power hitting from their perspective and sort of passes that on to us and to myself. And because we had a quite close connection, he would come and flick it at me a lot, and so I saw my batting also go through the roof.
Yeah, funny enough, we do know Carl. We were lucky enough to have Carl come down a few years back and do a spin masterclass coaching for us. And the one thing I would say about Carl, A, you're right, he's the nicest fella in the world, but B, his Instagram is the best thing. He is literally living the life, isn't he? Going around, he does T10 tournament after T10. I think he's in the Caribbean at the moment. That is the life you want, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he works bloody hard, but I think he gets the reward for it. Like, he's so personable, and like, especially at Lancs when he was away, he'd always give you phone calls and stuff like that. And I don't blame him for enjoying it and showing it off on Instagram.
Yeah, I don't particularly at all. So we're moving on, if that's right, Tom, to the England stuff. Obviously, the big one was the India tour. Sort of, what was it, about 9 months ago? How does that sort of whole process, I guess, come about? Like, how do you find out in the first instance that you are going on that England tour? How does the whole call-up process happen, I guess?
Is a bit underwhelming. Literally, it's just a phone call, really. And it's Baz who gives you the call. So that was it.
See, that's underwhelming. My phone rang Brendan McCullum. I'd be all right with that.
Yeah, it was class. Like, at the minute, you just have like this minute of shock, and like, because there's obviously numbers not saved, so you're like, hello, and then it's like, all right, it's Baz here. I'm like, fuck, all right, how are you now? But yeah, it was a long process because there was a Lions tour the November before, so we were sort of, there was 4 or 5 of us spinners on it, so it was sort of jostling for position, and we had this one net which Baz was watching, and all the spinners were in it, and it was like proper cagey. We were all like missing and full tosses off trackers just because we were so nervous, because literally this net like was literally riding on. It was getting picked for the tour, or that's what it felt anyway.
Did you expect it?
I didn't expect it. I kind of got a feeling after that Lions trip that I'd be somewhere close. But to get it really I didn't expect it at all. But I mean, it worked out pretty well in the end. So I'm happy.
How long before the tour does that phone call come? How much time do you then get to prepare? Mentally as much as anything?
It came early December, I'm pretty sure. So they give you, it's about a month, because we flew out to Abu Dhabi a few weeks before the tour, to get some training in. But it's just a nice feeling. Like, you could have your old Christmas knowing you've got this coming up, but at the same time you're trying to smash the gym, you're trying to get you running in, you're doing as much cricket as possible just to like, so you're in the right place to start that training camp basically, because you want to start off well and sort of show that you've been working away from it.
So when you got the call, you were going and stuff. Do you think you're going to be a bit part, or when did you realize you're going to be straight in the first test?
Well, when I saw the squad when it got released, you know, you see like there was Leach in it, there was Rayhan, there was myself, and there was Ashia. But it wasn't until we saw like the pitch when we first got to Hyderabad, so I think like, fucking hell, I've got like a chance here, because normally they play like 2 spin maybe, and I thought, you know, Rayhan's played a few tests. Obviously, Leachy's number 1. It sort of felt like me and Bashir were there to sort of like learn a bit, you know, maybe if it's going to be a ragged one test to play. But then when we saw the pitch, it was like, she's like, it was just cracks everywhere. It was bone dry. And then Baz just like said, "Oh, you're playing, like, how do you feel about opening the bowl?" And I was like, thought he was joking. And then, because I didn't know the team, so like I just presumed we'd have like 2-3 seamers, whatever, and then myself and Leach. And then I realized we were only playing 1 seamer. I was like, he actually wasn't joking. This is actually going to happen here. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask as well, Tom. So obviously you get the call up, and what I'm about to say comes mainly from the test documentary, the Aussie one. Do you get like a big box full of kit that's got like all your white and like all your training gear and your cap in as well?
Yeah, they have so they're like based in Loughborough, like all the England stuff. So there's a fella there who just comes around and comes and delivers your kit, and you get all your kit bags and your you know, whatever. He gives you all your jumpers, which obviously you're not going to need, but it's just nice to hang on to. And yeah, it's like Christmas Day when you get it.
That's a cool job. I'd love that, sliding around till you bring all the kit. Yeah.
Did you have time to, obviously, as soon as you found out, was it just calling friends and family straight away, or was it more like stay in the zone type thing, or give yourself a bit of time for excitement?
Yeah, well, I sort of, like, my dad's been such a big part of my journey coming forward, so he's getting the phone call straight away, and then like I want to tell my mum, but then she goes and tells all her other mates and whatever, so you sort of wait until like the squad gets announced online, so she's not like, you know, tell her mates before it's announced and everyone's hearing it. So but yeah, my dad and me missus were the first to find out, really.
And after you get the call and you realise, okay, like in a month I'm going to India, I'm playing for England, is there like a huge switch in your training? Does your training then sort of become dictated by England, or are you just mentally going, oh shit, I'm playing in a month, let's like hit the nets, let's do more, let's like just double the workload?
Yeah, it's weird because like none of the England coaches really come down to Lancs, you know, because they're based all over the place. They sort of just let yourself get onto it, and they sort of, you know, they sort of presume that, you know, as a player, you know what you need to do to be in the right place. And I mean, for me, I've not played a whole lot of winter cricket, so I'm not as good as knowing what I need to do, but I'm sure like people like Jimmy and, you know, Brody over the years, they just know what they need to do in the weeks building up. But I think they want to keep you fresh. So like we went out 2 weeks early to Abu Dhabi, and that's sort of the get ready time there. And I think that's what they put their focus on. So they want to keep you fresh, because if you do too much before the tour and the training camp, you might feel a bit burnt out coming in towards that last test. So they really want to keep you quite fresh and sort of don't put too much pressure to do a whole lot, to be honest.
I think from the outside looking in, obviously, I mean, only us three, we're just cricket fans who watch. You talked there about wanting to keep it fresh and maybe that kind of element. Is it quite laid back? Because obviously everyone talks about Bazball and about how they go about things. But how is that? Like when you get to Abu Dhabi, for example, you're right before flying into India for your test debut. What's it feel like? What is a sort of a typical day like? How relaxed is it?
It is so relaxed. So basically that trip is just like obviously get back into it, get on grass, get bowled some overs, but at the same time it's a way of getting the group together and sort of going out for meals. And I like golf's quite a big part of it. So you know, we more or less we train sort of 9 a.m. till 11:30, and then you're getting pulled out of nets to go play golf. So So we do that most of the afternoon, and then you come back and you'd be knackered, then you have dinner, and then sort of like for about a week or so, it was like deja vu every day or something similar. But then once you land in India, it's sort of the golf kind of stops. Obviously, the golf courses where we weren't quite as good as Abu Dhabi. So, and then lads just sort of then the netting for an hour, maybe 2 hours. So the training ramps up. So they try and hold you back just so you don't burn yourself out and sort of, over prepare. They sort of want to build it up. And then once you're in India, you have 2-3 days to go as hard as you want, really.
Who's the best golfer?
I think Harry Brook is the best golfer. Of course he is. Yeah, Zach Crawley's also very good. They're not far off scratch. So it's tough playing with or against them. Yeah.
And you see, I've seen videos of when the Indian team are moving around India and just the absolute fandom that there is. Was it similar for you guys, sort of getting off a plane, arriving in India and moving between hotels, or certainly getting to that first hotel? What was that like?
Yeah, it's class. I mean, you get a police escort everywhere, so you never sat in traffic. And coming off the plane and you're coming out the airport, and there's all these cameras there and all these fans there, and it is so different to anything you experience in England or anywhere else in the world. Like, people know what flight you're coming in on, they know when you're landing, and they'll just come and gather, and they don't even want to, get a picture or anything. They just want to come and see their favorite players. And when people like Rohit and Bumrah are coming out the airport, because there's just these screens all the time, but it's class to go on. It's such a different experience.
So we'll jump to that first test, mate. We'll start with that first ball, shall we? Is it still going?
Yeah, I was so nervous for that. I mean, when you feel and it comes out the end, you're like, at least I've got it up there. It's not a bad ball. Perhaps it was a bit wide of off stump, but it wasn't like a rank half track. And then you're looking over your lap shoulder and go, fuck, geez, like that's a new record, isn't it? It's a new start for everyone. But the good thing was that it wasn't like a massive half volley, or I was in the half track. I landed it, and Stokesy came up, and that's not a bad ball really. But then he does it again 2 balls later. So you're like, oh, this is gonna be a long series. This, but they're just class. Like, no one ever saying like, what's he doing getting picked? It's sort of like, mate, that was a good ball. There's not much you can do about that. We'll just set the field accordingly, and we'll crack on.
Were you more nervous first ball or second ball?
I'd still say first ball. I think if that first ball hadn't come out quite nice, if I just dragged it down and landed it by my feet, I would have been so nervous. But I just had to look back at it, and I think there was a replay on the screen. I was like, it's not a terrible ball. That I just tightened my line up a bit, and hopefully it would be all right. But same happened a few balls later. So.
How difficult is that? I mean, I know it's probably a stupid question, but I guess when you say it's happened first ball, third ball, it's obviously looks like they've targeted you, England spinners in general. Does that get into your head when you're bowling a little bit, or are you able to just focus on what you're doing rather than what they're doing?
Yeah, I think I've been lucky that I played quite a lot of white ball cricket in my time, so I actually get used to getting hit for 6 quite a lot. I mean, I still hate it, but as a spinner in white ball cricket, you've just got to get on with it, and you can bowl good balls and they'll get whacked. But I think at the same time, you sort of know they're going to come after you, so you can spread your field. You don't have to have everyone up and sort of force them to play a shot. You know they're going to do it. And if you have the right mindset, it actually brings you into the game, because they're actually going to hit the ball into the air. Although Jarswell, it never doesn't come off the middle, but he's still given technically chances by hitting it in the air.
So I think obviously if they obviously going to come at you quite early doors, I think from the first test, I think Stokes kept bowling you a bit more to get you more into the game and stuff. Is that not some of it? Does that feel good, or does it feel like I could do a bit of a break here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I could have done with a break, but I was so glad that he did keep me on, because it wasn't because I think I know Keg's a good mate, but you know what happened, and one of his videos sort of got pulled off when when Watson got him. And I think Stokes could have done something very similar to me, but I think they sort of understand, you know, what that does to a player. And so he sort of left me on for it was 7 or 8 overs. But by the end of it, I actually felt in the game like we reviewed a couple of chances and I felt like I was close on a few balls. So I actually came off thinking, well, okay, I've got whacked. I've gone at 8, 9 and over or whether, but, you know, I hit right on the pad a few times. We reviewed a couple, almost snicked them off. And so if he hadn't given me them overs, I wouldn't have created them chances, and then all would have come off thinking was, geez, I've just been whacked for 2 sixes in my first over.
Just sort of building on what Steve said there, Tom, like you mentioned Stokes comes up and has a word with you after the first ball goes. And in terms of sort of, you must have gone from complete opposites in that game to how you were feeling from your first ball going to the 6, for obviously eventually taking a 7 for. Is Stokes talking to you more while you're sort of under pressure a little bit, or is he talking to you more in the longer spell where you're taking wickets and winning the game?
I think a bit of both, really. He changes the field a lot, and he sort of comes up to you and says, like, literally, don't look at what I'm doing. I'm going to change the field and what I think is going to happen, and I just want you to bowl the same ball. And yeah, he will come up to you if, you know, there's a few boundaries or whatever, but it's never anything negative. He's always trying to push for that positive comment, like, oh, lad, that was so close. That was just over his head. Or, if we had him in the right position, that would have been stopped. So I think he does let you get onto it. I can't remember in that second innings him really coming up to me that much. But he's just a great supportive role model, to be honest.
How much do you think that you talked about that support and you mentioned Kerrigan as well against the Aussies? How much do you think that spell in the first innings where things were difficult, helped the second innings?
Yeah, I think it's just nice to get in the game, and I think if you've not bowled a lot of overs, then you might fall out your rhythm a little bit and you start thinking a bit more internally. But I felt that the more I bowled, I started to think on more how I was going to get him out and where do I want to pitch it and sort of what paces. While if you keep on getting whacked, thinking, well, I need to keep this front side in a bit more, or I need to rotate or whatever. So I just felt like the more I got into it, the more that I was pushing for wickets and really helping the team out. And plus, I sort of had to bowl more because we only had one seamer, and obviously Leach also went down in that game as well.
Obviously, moving on to the wickets then, mate. Was there a moment in that spell where you thought, I'm in like a spell of my life here? Was there a wicket, was there a ball, or did you just feel in rhythm the whole way through?
It was funny that morning. I came out just for my warm up, and Jeetan Patel came up to me and was like, "Mate, I think you just need to." He was like, after you released it, just really feel like you're pulling this front arm as fast as possible down. And it was like, you never really talked about technical stuff. I was like, oh, that makes sense, that. And so literally that morning, it was the best, just having that feeling of really trying to pull that front arm down as fast as possible. So on my bowling arm. And it just worked. And then all of a sudden you got like 1 wicket, 2 wicket. I think I had the first 3 and I thought, geez, like we're on a roll here. But it probably wasn't until that Jarrell wicket where it I think that's probably still one of the best balls. The ball sort of pitch leg hit off. It wasn't until then to really thought, like, we're going to do this now. And I think that was my 5th. So, yeah, I think that was the moment when I sort of knew that we were going to win this game.
I mean, obviously, like taking a 7 to win a game for England on debut is almost the best case scenario that can happen. Sort of from you being called up to the game actually being played, was there any moment where you imagined something of that nature or that good happening? Was that or was that beyond any sort of wildest dreams that you may have even allowed yourself to have?
Yeah, like the thought going on the tour that I might get a game or 2 in. I saw who we were taking. But at the same time, I watched a lot of, I think it was 2019 last time they were out there, and they played a lot on spinning wickets, so the games were over in 2 days, 2.5 days. And I thought, well, if they're going to play on the same wickets again, I'm going to have a a good chance of maybe getting a game in here. And I think on wickets like that, you always back yourself as a spinner. It doesn't matter who the opposition, that you're going to take wickets. And, you know, you can never dream of taking 5, but you always sort of have it in the back of your mind, I think.
I think there's talk about it, mate. There was like, they wanted like a tall spinner ball's a bit quick into the pitch, like the Axar Patel. Did he talk to you about like him and what he does? Or was it a bit like, your pick now, go and do your thing?
Yeah, I think because he did so well in that 2019 series that they sort of identified that, okay, maybe we need to take a player that does something similar. And I think we do. We're both pretty tall. We both sort of, you know, he's maybe a bit more undercuts it a bit more, but we're both generally side spin. So I think that's what they were hoping. They never told me to bowl like him, but they literally just said, like, when we get on this wicket, just fire it in as fast as you can and just do your thing, really, which was quite nice.
Obviously, looking at that test match, fantastic for you to be the one to take the 7. For the first innings, it was like about 200 behind. What's it like in the dressing room there? Like, obviously, it was an incredible win and incredible for yourself, but was there the belief that after that first innings, you could turn that round and go and win it? Because to score 400 and then defend was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the dressing room's so laid back, you know, like lads are in there, they're just having a chat, doing Sudoku, whatever, you know, we try and, a lot of us try and sit in the change room just because it's so noisy and like draining being out in the sun. And they gave a lot of tickets to kids and it's great for them, but they're just non-stop all day. So it's like actually really relaxed and we just watched it on the TV inside and, you know, a few lads are out there, like there was a few games where I had to have a little kip. I was just knackered after bowling. But it's so relaxed and then like, yeah, I think that just passes off on yourself. Anyone with nervous energy sort of disappears in them just because of the nature of the dressing room. And I think that allows then like Pope goes out and scores that 190, whatever. And that really got us in the position to win that game. And, you know, he's playing shots of like these reverse scoops that are going over first slip. And it's like, in what world can someone with the game on the line, can someone go out and do that? But that's just all credit to how they have the change room, to be honest.
Do you reckon it was easier to make your debut in India compared to someone like England? But obviously, when you're spinner in England, you're not kind of meant to do it in the first like 3.5 days, really. But obviously, you kind of meant to be like a match winner from sort of ball 1. Did that play in your mind a little bit at all?
I think so. They kept on telling me, especially Baz, that like, you know, we're not, you know, there's no pressure on it. It's your first test match. We can't expect it to go out and win the game for us. Obviously, we got Leach in the side as well, who's probably more suited to going on and taking them big wickets and winning them the game just because of the experience he has. But I think at the same time, you're going to know the conditions are in your favour as a spinner. I mean, they're great players to spin, but when the ball's turning that much, I mean, you always back yourself and you should, you know, it's going to be, and it's tough work for them. So, and they're not massive sweepers of the ball, to be honest with you. So it kind of encourages you to land it around leg stump line, middle and leg, because, you know, in England, they might actually sweep off that line, but in India, they don't. So it just allows you sort of, you know, really try and bowl them magic balls, really. And you always get the backing from the change room, which is great.
Moving forward now, I mean, that's incredible insight to what it's like. Moving forward, is that kind of the ambitions for yourself now to get back into that England setup?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to. Like, I had such good fun when I was in there. And, you know, coming away from it, I knew what I had to work on. Obviously, they've gone with Bashir and he's got great over-the-top shape. So I sort of looked at that and looked at my bowling in India and sort of realised that, you know, I do bowl quite a lot of side spinners, which is great. Like, you'll skid someone, you'll turn someone turning wickets. But, you know, on flatter wickets, you see the likes of Nathan Lyon in Australia, like, because he goes over the top, even when it's not spinning, he still gets a lot of dip and a lot of drift on the ball. So, you know, on flatter wickets in England, that's what you need to have. Like, you watch Simon Harmer, he rags the ball, but because his shape is so nice, he gets a lot of people done in the flight. I think that's the next step for me.
Okay, that's interesting. And how much this winter will be geared towards that then? Do you think about that goal, or are you just working sort of day to day and just working on your own game and seeing where it goes?
Yeah, I think from what I've seen and what I've worked on, that working on my alignment, I actually bowl from a higher position. And that actually gets me over the top a bit more. I think a lot of time, well, especially myself and other spinners think that I've actually got to change my wrist position, but actually it's more of a rotational thing on where your feet are landing and how side on you can get, and not just bowling quite chest on, which really forces you to push out the front a bit more. I think working with Nathan Lyon, he really gets side on, and that allows him to go over the top. So as much as I need to focus on what I do well and like consistency and bowling from height, that's just something to keep on the back of my mind, to be honest.
You mentioned Nathan Lyon there. What was it like having him around this summer? Did you get much of an opportunity to learn from him when he was at Louts?
Yeah, it was class. Like first week or so, like we were quite friendly, and we were sort of getting to know each other a bit more. But after the first few weeks, he really opened up to me, and we spent some good time bowling together. And obviously, he's got such a backup of knowledge that he was just able to pass it all on to me, and it was just class, to be honest with you. It was just like I was just like a kid at school again, just sort of taking in everything he had, and just watching him bowl. Like, he never missed. His seam was perfect, and it was just a joy to work with him, to be honest.
I saw a clip of Nathan Lyon on a podcast back home a few weeks ago where he was talking about coming over to England this summer, and like I got to see him play at S&B and like walk up the same path where I've walked hundreds of times as a kid, and that was like really, really cool. But he said that supposedly McCullum was like disappointed that you brought him out, like that he'd been brought over for the summer, especially as it sort of prevents maybe like likes of yourself getting overs. From your point of view, is your focus when you see something like that happen more, okay, I get to learn from him, or are you disappointed that it means potentially you're going to get a little bit less game time, especially in the red ball stuff, which is what he seemed to play?
Yeah, I mean, he was signed before everything in India occurred, so I don't blame the club for wanting to bring some spin help in, and he's so good at holding an end, especially on non-spinning wickets. But obviously, it would have been nice to play like what happened in India. I sort of needed to carry on from that and build from that and play on some fatter wickets and sort of learn my skill on them wickets. But to work with him and to learn from him was just as valuable, I think. I mean, I could have been bitter about it, but I was very, very glad that he came, and I've taken actually a lot of stuff with him, which should help me more in the long run, to be honest.
So I just actually got a question for Henry. Actually, you said there, Hennes, that you listened to a podcast with Nathan Lyon on.
I watched a clip on social media. Listen to the whole podcast.
You ever listen to any Academy North podcasts that you're now on, Henry?
Yeah, I listened to the Hasib Hamid one. It was top of my Spotify rap this year. So, just commitment to the brand.
How much of it did you listen to?
I've listened to it all twice. Made sure I did my revision before starting a new series. Thought I'd must get the homework done.
Sorry, go on, Steve.
Just more, I'm on the franchise stuff now. Obviously, the T10s, T20s, 100s, all around the world and stuff now. Do you see yourself doing all that? And does your schedule allow it, or would that be against like the Red Bull stuff? How do you see it?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. Like the IPL and the PSL this year very much in our Red Bull season. So for me, I obviously still have ambitions to play Test cricket and to go and play for England again. But I mean, I'd still love to play in these franchise tournaments. The money they're sort of paying now is unbelievable. And if you can get 2 or 3 a year, you're picking up pretty nice salary. And plus, I feel like once you're in a good position technically and where you are with your game, I think it's great to go and play these tournaments as it gets you out. Well, I mean, it's pretty miserable being in England in the winter. So it's just nice to get out and spend a bit of time in some sun. And I think, you can do almost a year, 2 years learning in sort of a winter away. So I think it's a great thing, to be honest. And I'd love to do more of it, but it's just so hard to get in these tournaments.
Is it almost like once you get in, if you have a decent tournament, then you're kind of on that circuit then, and you almost just need that kind of one breakthrough franchise tournament overseas.
Yeah, like so a lot of the owners own a lot of the same teams, so you see the same franchises popping up everywhere. So if you can sort of impress and do well in one certain franchise, they're more likely to pick you up. And obviously, there's similar coaching staff with these same franchise owners. So yeah, like you said, it's very much once you do well in a comp, that's sort of you for the next year, 2 years maybe.
Brilliant. That sounds perfect. Before we've got a little sort of quick fire questions to finish, but before we do, Tom, listening to your insight about your own game and about being in that England setup is superb. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. If you could give one bit of advice to any young cricketer out there, what would it be?
I think, well, speaking from my own personal point of view, it's just have fun. I think when I was playing through Ormskirk and playing at school, especially started Lancs, I just had a laugh every time I went on the field. I surrounded myself with some really great people and people who really wanted to push me on. So I think if you can try and find some mates who just love playing cricket and, you know, make it enjoyable, it makes the game go a lot faster, to be honest with you. And, you know, you get more out of it, I feel.
Great answer. I love that. So we got a few quick fire questions. I'm going to tee Henry up for this. So nice and quick fire. We're going to put you on the spot, and it's not all cricket, but off we go.
Yeah, we've been working hard on these in the group chat over the last week, so yeah, I hope you like them. So what would your death row meal be?
A Nando's.
Right answer. Dyche or Moyes?
Moyes.
Yes.
Lion or Ashwin?
Lion.
Robbo or Johnny?
Is this Johnny Armstrong?
Yeah, that was mine, mate. Yeah.
Johnny Armstrong.
Would you rather take the winning wicket in the Ashes or in the Cricket World Cup final?
The Ashes.
Brandwaite or VVD?
Brand.
For touring wise, would you rather tour Australia or the Caribbean?
Australia, I think.
And Liverpool win the quadruple, or you have to face Bumrah for a day?
I'd face Bumrah for a day. Racing for two, if I had to.
The loyalty is admirable. No, some good answers. I'm particularly the fan of the Nando's for a death row meal because that would be the same for me. I'm not sure what Jacko or Steve would choose.
Yeah, it wouldn't be an Nando's. Nice big cooked steak, medium rare. That would be me. Thanks very much.
Yeah, Matty's cooking mine, so I'll go and sit with him.
Before we wrap up, I do feel like we could do another 45 minutes on how the hell you could choose Brandwaite over Virgil van Dijk. But we will let you go, Tom. But before we do, a big thank you to everyone listening. Something I always forgot to say at the start as well. If you want to learn more about anything we do at Academy North, check us out on social media. It's at Academy North 1. We're on Facebook, Twitter, or X, Instagram. I think we're on TikTok these days as well. D, any idea what TikTok is?
Yeah, it's that dancing thingy, innit?
Exactly. So if you want any of our dancing thingy videos, they're all on TikTok. But most importantly, Tom, huge thank you for giving us your time, mate. And amazing insight. We've learned so much. And can't thank you enough, mate. We really appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on. Cheers.